Okay, guys, the highlights from GreatStockPicks.com live trading chat room on Wednesday. You know what? We had a pretty nice morning. I didn't short anything, and you can see an ugly candle on the SPY daily here. We've now significantly lost the 200-day, so things aren't very pretty. But I'm going to go over what was called in chat today. My very first call was on MBI. Now, let's take today's candle out of it, and I'll show you why I called. This was already down a few days in a row, and then had a nasty big candle yesterday. So then I put this on bounce watch. Now, what does that mean? I'll show you what it looked like at the open. Actually gave a pretty nice low risk setup here. This is the opening 5-minute candle right there. Okay, and you can see after the open, so there's the opening high and the 10-minute low, because these are 5-minute candles. In other words, it stayed in a nice narrow range. So and when I have a stock that's gotten killed the previous day, and you get either a gap up or a gap down, I usually don't really care. A break of the early high, you're probably going to get some momentum, some short covering. Okay, so my call was 708. Worst case stop down here below this candle. So in other words, it's going to have to take out the high of the day and roll over and take out the low of the day for us to be wrong. Believe it was 12 cents risk, and look what happens. Boom, there's the trigger, and I mean in about 5 minutes we're already probably up 3%, and it ended up going up basically 4% over the next 10 or 15 minutes. So while this doesn't look like much, a move from 708 to 740 or 739 is a nice move, and we always teach our members sell into spikes, especially when we take an early trade. That was a great way to start the day. Very nice percentage gain. Speaking of low price stocks and narrow ranges, DVAX was another call I made this morning. Normally I don't trade stuff that's that's thin, because you go back here, it doesn't average a million a day. But anyway, had such a big move yesterday on over 15 million shares that I kind of had this on my radar. And you had the little bitty gap up, and then a couple, stair steps, old doji candle there. I called it long over this green candle with a stop below this green candle. The thinking is it stayed in a narrow range, had this big run yesterday, and if it gets over this green candle here, very close to a high of day break. Okay, so then we're probably going to get the high of day break. If not, it doesn't matter. Our stop is basically, I think our entry was 475 or 476 with a stop below this candle at 467. So anyway, we get the trigger, we get the high of day break, and we got to move to 490. Which doesn't sound like much, but then again, that from here to here is about 3%. So another nice move. Very low risk, and we were never underwater. Now, over late in the day, it rolled over again. As I just said, we're sellers into these little spikes, not buyers. Express Scripts, another call I made. We had this on bounce watch, and it looked like this when I called it. You had another day of selling off, and you kind of had a double bottom, and I liked this volume. So I said if it breaks this candle, 50.10 with a stop at 49.93. 17 cents risk on a $50 stock, not bad. There's the trigger, and it ends up getting up to 50, 60 something. It ended up moving up 54 cents in our favor on 17 cents risk, and we had ever since the trigger, any time, all time, I can't talk, had plenty of time to sell this wherever we wanted. Typically, I teach people to sell into shape, so this trigger's here and it's just grinding. But when you get shape like this, let me show you here. Whenever you're in something, and again, remember the entry was right here, and it's just doing nothing, so you just honor the stop. But then when you get shaped like this, you should always sell some. All right, don't have to sell it all, because maybe this takes out the high of the day and becomes a home run, right? But you always want to sell some into shape, and that was about as far as it went. So another nice trade there. I made one mistake today late in the day, and that was on NE. I jumped the gun, bottom fishing, and lost a dime. I think I took it when it looked like this around 34.47. And I sold it at 34.37 right here when it didn't work. And I did make a mistake there, because for one, it didn't even give me a candlestick trigger. I was just trying to gauge the turn, okay? And for two, the SPY was selling at the same time. I like these, what we call them in chat, we call them PFPDs, which stands for potential final push down. I like these, but only when it's an individual stock doing it. And in short, what you have is here, you have grinding lower all day, and then you get that shape change, preferably on increasing volume. So that's the sign of a possible intraday bottom. Okay, couple that with this was around 34.50 On the daily, now remember it wasn't this far down at the time. On the daily, you had a low, an October low back here of 34.48. Okay, so you had a possible bounce off the October lows, plus you had the intraday shape near that price, and it just didn't work. But again, the whole SPY was selling, the whole market was selling, so that's a mistake. But it was a 10 cent a share mistake, and we did certainly some nicer trades to the upside. Oh, also the SMS pick I called General Motors at 24, let me get this right, 24.18 I sent out to our text members, which was basically right in here. It was starting to push up, 24.18, and it ended up going to 24.43 over the next 40 minutes or so. Plenty of time for people to take profits, and shortly after I sent it, I sent out then another alert reminding people that we had FOMC minutes being released and the president getting ready to talk. So I said, I don't remember how I worded it, but pretty much be prudent and take profits quicker than normal. Normally we don't micromanage the SMS picks, but right after I sent it out, my chat room members reminded me, hey, FOMC minutes coming out and the president talking. Both of those factors can tank the market, and if we look at the SPY, we can see that they did. So GM was a nice SMS pick. I made a nice trade in it myself, and I did get an email from a member that said they picked up a few $100 on it, so happy for them as well. And a little bit out of my SMS slump. I finally had a decent one over after the last few days. All right, have a good night. I've babbled long enough, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.